We've got to move on! That evening, I was not greeted at all as I had expected. The house was quiet. There was no sign of my wife, Helen, or my children. Helen and I, Mike Lewis, have been married for 11 years. Deciding that the house was quiet, I saw a note on the table. Mike, I'm sorry I can't tell you this in person, but I'm too much of a coward to face you. I met someone else and fell in love. The kids are with me and safe. The divorce papers are in the envelope under this note. As you can see, I'm not asking for anything. Helen. Needless to say, my day and my life went down the drain in a matter of minutes. I was thrashing around the kitchen, cursing, going through the divorce papers, and finally collapsing into a chair. Helen was leaving me the house and all our money, taking only clothes for herself and the kids, plus their toys. The item that really pissed me off was the last one. Helen wanted me to sign the papers for my kids so they could be adopted by her new man. It was like it was going to happen. At least it let me know who Helen had left me for, Henry Carslake. I called my soon-to-be ex-wife. Hey, Mike. Hi, Mike. What the hell is going on, Helen? Like I said in my note, I met someone else and fell in love with him. Yeah, of course you did. No one just leaves a marriage and sleeps with a guy. At least it lets me know you two slept together. I just hope it wasn't in our bed. No. Please stop swearing and act civilized, Helen replied. Civilized? To hell with civilized. You can divorce and stay with the asshole. But I'm not putting my kids up for adoption. Tell Mr. Big Shot he can forget it. I hung up. After showering and changing, I went out to eat, since cooking in my mood was undesirable. The food was okay, and then I decided to go to the bar and have a couple drinks. Considering today had gone to shit, I figured I was due that much. The man my wife left me for was the owner of Carslake Construction Company. I'd done some work for his company in the past, but that was about to change. My friend Paul spotted me at the bar. I don't see you around here very often, Mike. Did you manage to get away from your family for the evening? Something like that, Paul. I came back to an empty house with a packet of divorce papers. Helen's divorcing you? Shit, I didn't see that coming. Me neither, Paul. Me neither. She's moved in with Henry Carslake. What, you mean Henry Carslake of Carslake Construction? Yes, that's the one. I think she's in love with him. What are you gonna do, Mike? I'm gonna give her a divorce. She doesn't want anything from me, so I'll sign the papers and get rid of her. There was another form she wants me to sign, but I already threw it in the trash. What was the form? Paul asked. She wants me to give the kids to him for adoption. That's not going to happen in this life. Paul shook his head in disgust. One thing's for sure. Carslake can kiss my ass. I was supposed to start working for him on Monday. Fuck him. I'll find another job. I signed the divorce papers. The application form for my kids to be adopted by an asshole ended up in the trash. Helen tried to beg me, but I wouldn't give in. Eventually, she gave in. At the time of the divorce, Chloe was 10 and Lee was 8. I wanted revenge on Carslake, but I didn't want to go to jail for it. I never showed up for work on Monday. Strangely, no one hounded me to fulfill it. Part of my revenge on Carslake happened without my involvement. It came about as a result of my conversation with Paul. When word got out, most of the local contractors refused to work with Carslake Construction. They realized that he had screwed me over, and as payback, they refused his work. Sure, old Henry found other contractors, but those were cowboys, and the work suffered. Several times I was asked for a quote for the work, but when I found out it was for Carslake, I didn't even bother to send a quote. After 6 months, my divorce became final. 3 months after that, Helen and Govnyuk got married. I took the kids for a week while they went on their honeymoon. I didn't take the kids to help them. I just figured a week was better than the weekends I was getting now. What pissed me off was my daughter Chloe's question. Daddy, why did you send us to live with Mom and Henry? What? I didn't send you. Your mother took you because she doesn't love me anymore. If it was up to me, you could have stayed here, I answered, assuring Chloe that it wasn't my decision. That was something I was going to talk to Helen about. When Helen rang the doorbell to pick up the kids, she walked in all tanned and smiling. The smile disappeared when I spoke to her. Stop lying and talking nonsense, Helen. From now on, tell the kids the truth. If you don't tell them yourself, I will. They know now that I didn't ask you to take them in. If I could, I'd fight you for custody tomorrow. Helen walked away in anger. Life as a single man seemed strange to me after being married for so long. Some of my friends tried to set me up on dates, but frankly, I wasn't in the mood to meet anyone. I wanted to make love, but not go on dates. And I didn't know that my life was about to change again. My neighbors were Gary and Emily. They had moved in right after Helen left me. Their house was a bargain for them as it needed a lot of work. Emily worked as a secretary. Gary had recently retired from the army. We got along well and they seemed like a nice couple. When we saw each other, they chatted with me. Tragedy struck when Gary collapsed at work. Paramedics and a doctor arrived within 10 minutes. Gary was pronounced dead at the scene. The autopsy showed that Gary died from a subdural hematoma. Emily was distraught and alone. I offered her some friendly sympathy. Gary's parents were dead. Emily's parents were on vacation in Europe. Not wanting to leave her alone, I walked her to my house and poured us both a drink. I listened as Emily sobbed and told me about her plans for the future. Emily cried and fell asleep on my couch. I covered her with a blanket and slept in the chair in case Emily woke up during the night. The next morning, Emily was leaving just as Helen was dropping the kids off. "Good to see you're not wasting any time, Mike." "Come on, Helen. The poor woman just lost her husband." Helen looked at me, then turned to talk to the kids. Later that day, I explained to them why Emily was leaving the house. Chloe looked sad, and I don't think Lee got it right. Emily asked me to attend Gary's funeral, which I did. In the UK, all mortgages have to be insured, and thankfully Emily won't be left destitute. This was faint consolation, given that she had lost her husband. Emily's parents returned from Europe, and both spoke to me after the funeral. I assured them that I would look after Emily, for apart from my work colleagues, I was her only friend. I offered to help Emily as much as possible with any small jobs that needed doing, nothing serious, just things that kept the house in a livable condition. The next time Helen dropped the kids off, she stayed in the car, which was fine with me since I didn't have to talk to her. Emily and I spent a fair amount of time together, not as a couple, more as supportive friends. Almost a year later, Lee was playing in the garden while I was tidying up my work van. I heard voices and turned around to see him chatting with Emily. I called out to him and asked him not to be a bore, but I heard Emily say it was fine. She was hanging the laundry to dry on the clothesline. "Emily, would you like to have dinner with us tonight?" "Lee, you can't just invite people over for dinner." "It's not people, it's Emily." We both stood there laughing. I asked Emily if she wanted to join us. "Yeah, I'd like that. That would be great, thank you." Lee ran off to tell Chloe we had a guest for dinner. I apologized for him being so cavalier. Emily helped me make dinner, and it was obvious that she was pretty skilled in the kitchen. Emily helped me clean up after dinner and sat with us for a while before heading home. "Thanks for dinner, Mike. I really enjoyed it." "Thanks for accepting the invitation." I hugged Emily goodbye and watched her walk towards her house. When I heard the locking of her door, I walked back into the house. "She's really cute, Dad. Emily is your girlfriend?" Chloe asked me with a smile. "No, Emily is just a friend and neighbor," I answered, but I thought it would be nice if she was my girlfriend. I just kept the thought from the kids. Sunday afternoon, Helen picked up the kids. I knew they would tell her about Emily joining us for dinner, and I wasn't wrong. The next time Helen picked up the kids, she paid special attention by asking about Emily. "Not that it's any of your business, but Emily is just a friend. Besides, you left me for an asshole, so why are you worried about me?" "I'm not worried, Mike. Just asking, that's all." "Yeah, well, you got what you wanted. What I do is none of your business." "I didn't get everything I wanted." "No, you didn't. If you mean I'm going to let a jerk adopt kids, forget it. It's not going to happen, so you might as well get used to it." "I was just thinking." "No, Helen, you weren't thinking. You left me for a life of luxury with him. If he wants kids, let him have his own. That bastard took my wife and ruined my marriage. There's no way he can adopt those kids ever." Helen pouted and walked home. I smiled, knowing I had pissed her off. A year later, I hadn't seen Emily for a few weeks, partly because I was very busy. My friend Paul was rewiring the house for a young couple and asked me to make an offer on a complete plumbing rewire. My offer was accepted, and I had a busy few weeks getting everything finished. While working on the house with Paul, he kept me up to date with news. Carslake still had to use a lot of non-local professionals. Most of the local guys still avoided working for him. With the work on the house completed, I finally had some time to relax. I decided to take Emily out to dinner. She agreed, and we agreed on a time for Saturday night. When I walked in behind Emily, it took my breath away. She was a petite woman. She had a haircut that I called pixie cut. The dress she wore showed off her slender figure, and for the first time I began to take an interest in her sexually. Dinner went great, and we spent a lot of time talking about our lives in general. Later that evening, I walked Emily to her door. "Thank you for a wonderful evening, Mike." I smiled, and before I could say a word, Emily stood on her tiptoes and kissed me. Not a polite peck, but a full, open-mouth, tongue-in-cheek kiss. Wow, I didn't expect that. I struggled to catch my breath. "Take me out with you again and see where it takes you." Emily smiled and said goodnight before kissing me politely on the cheek. I asked Emily out again, and this time we ended up in my bed. She may have had a small build, but my God, she was a sexy dynamo. I don't think I'd ever had such a satisfying love affair. Emily and I spent more and more time together, and eventually she sold her house and moved in with me. The kids thought it was great that I was dating, and I knew they would tell Helen everything. From what Chloe said, her mother wasn't impressed. Heck, she didn't want me, but Emily did. A year after the first time we slept together, Emily and I got married. When the kids told Helen, she just snorted and turned away. Emily and I had 2 children. We named the boy Gary and his younger brother Robert. My 2 older children were old enough to travel on their own when they visited, which meant I had even less contact with Helen. Years went by, and one evening Chloe informed me that she was getting married. Her boyfriend Josh had proposed the night before. As her father, I asked if they needed help financing the wedding. We didn't think we would need it, but now we do? I looked a little puzzled until Chloe explained. Henry said he would cover the cost of the wedding. We sat with him and my mom and discussed everything, and then he broke the news. Henry would cover the cost of the wedding on the condition that he would be the one to walk me down the aisle. I said, "No way, that's your job," and Henry said he wasn't going to contribute to the cost. Chloe was clearly upset. I was angry at Carslake for pulling a stunt like that. Emily asked if she could talk to me alone, and we went out into the garden. "Mike, we have what's left of the money from the sale of my house in the bank. Please use it to cover your expenses. Chloe deserves it." "I know, Emily, but it's your money. I can't ask you to spend it on Chloe." "Yes, you can. Now go tell that poor girl that we'll cover it." Chloe jumped for joy when I told her the news. We agreed on a budget, and everything they wanted came in under budget. The next day, Chloe phoned me to let me know that Henry was furious, and obviously Helen wasn't happy either. We were sitting in the garden one afternoon when Lee turned up unannounced. He said he needed to leave because he was tired of listening to his mother and Henry arguing. "Are they still arguing about the wedding?" Emily asked. "No, it's something else. As far as I can tell, Henry isn't doing his bedroom duties." I burst out laughing. I was pleased that Helen had dumped me for someone who can't fulfill his duties when it matters. "The walls in the house are as thin as paper, Dad. I can hear them at night. I think Mom is tired of Henry not doing well in bed." We laughed about the situation while drinking beer. Lee stayed the night at our place to avoid an argument at home. On Chloe and Josh's wedding day, Helen was not happy. Chloe told her that she and Henry would sit behind Emily and me. The church service went off without a problem. I agreed to have Helen sit at the top table at the reception. Henry, on the other hand, sat with Emily, Robert, Gary, and Lee. When all the speeches had been made, the caterers removed several tables to make room for dancing. The first dance was started by Josh and Chloe. They were joined by Emily and I, as well as Helen and Henry. Later in the evening, we were standing at the bar, Gary and Robert sitting with one of Chloe's bridesmaids and her children. Lee asked Emily if she wanted to dance. I smiled and said, "Go for it." Helen took the moment to walk over to me. It was obvious that Helen had been drinking, and I realized this was not going to end well. Look at them together. She looks young enough to be Lee's girlfriend. Despite being the mother of 2 boys, Emily still looked the same as the first day we met. Helen, on the other hand, had not aged well and had gained weight. Her dress was low-cut in the back and showed off several rolls of fat. Henry was obese and losing his hair. They were a perfect match. "Don't get me started, Helen. Jealousy doesn't suit you. Besides, we're divorced, so you're no longer authorized to comment on my life. Jealous? Jealous of her? God, she looks like she still has school to go to. I think she'll be fine when she's fat and has a bust worth talking about. Don't talk about my wife like that. For your information, Emily is more of a woman than you ever were. Helen looked at me in shock. Ask yourself, Helen, when was the last time you had a good love affair? In fact, when was the last time you had one? I paused for a moment. I had a great love last night. And you know what? I might have more tonight. Helen stood stunned as Henry joined us. You see, Helen, when you left me, you thought you were trading me for something more valuable. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. As for me, I just moved on. I have my own life now. A wife who loves me for who I am, 2 wonderful children on top of the 2 I already had. Life is as good as it can be for me right now. Can you say the same? I walked away, leaving the 2 of them to play goldfish. Emily and I danced to slow music. Lee was pulled onto the dance floor by one of the bridesmaids. What was that at the bar? Emily whispered as we danced. Kiss me. I'll tell you later. We kissed, and I knew Helen was watching us. When we broke the kiss, I smiled at Helen. She turned away and ordered another drink. Oh yes, I had definitely moved on. Looking at what I had and what I have now, I think I've swapped for more value too. The end.